Today is 8 November. Market opened strong and moved upward up 52 point at 3726. This is a follow through after yesterday breakout. Notice the last two sessions we see range expansions on high volume. This is a positive development. Breaking this support is very significant. It shows a change in perception of the fundamentals. Now the quality of the pullback will give us indication of the strength of this move. Our immediate resistance is 3,800. Support is actually at this previous resistance at 3,650. Let's take a look at the US markets. This is S&P 500 on the weekly charts. Notice we have strong weekly bars making all-time high. Mentioned previously, 1326 are well placed. It shows that the strength is actually strong. You see similar actions in Nasdaq, which is a much stronger move. Though overall the patterns look weaker than S&P, but this has been a very strong, powerful move, breaking this resistance quite convincingly. Again, mentioned before, the trend long-term trend remain intact despite this pullback. Now let's take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield. Now notice that actually after the Federal Reserve cut the interest rate by 50 basis points in September, we see actually the yield strengthening. This is quite unusual. Now this is perhaps because of the anticipations of the interest rate cuts. We see the yield actually weakening, and after the release of the announcements, you actually staged a run up, and in the process it actually broke the downward trend line. The fact that actually 1326 are well priced, it does indicate the trend remains strong. We are likely to see further upward move, perhaps at a slower pace. If you notice over the last couple of sessions, there are a series of overlapping bar compared to the previous move. Now Brent crude itself is a bit choppy, and it's very difficult to really understand the move going forward. But it's important to note that actually $71 remain a strong support, and right now 75 is a resistance that was tested on many occasions, and this is important. Now breaking this, we may see further upside again, testing the $81. Let's take a look at the local stocks. First, the bank stock DBS. Mentioned in the previous videos, there is no trend characteristics. So basically, this is a consolidation patterns, and you can go either way. Now, you notice over here itself, the stock actually moved downwards before it actually gap up. I finally bashed through this resistance. Now, on the weekly charts, you probably can see it more clearly. So if you notice over here, we have a shallow pullback, and this is a small deeper breakout. If you notice, this break itself is very strong. It's more likely to actually pull back on a short-term basis. So during the pullback, we can look for setup, OCBC. Again, very strong break on the upside on increased volume. Look for pullback and look for a new setup. Now UOB performed well today, even though the overall charts pattern doesn't look that strong. So if you notice, actually it's been hovering below the resistance here, and they managed to actually bash through quite convincingly with extension bar on very high volume. Again, with a price action like this, is usually likely to actually pull back. Again, pullback is just to be expected after a strong move like this. Hong Kong Land. Now this stock's actually after a strong move has experienced some retracement. If you notice over here, the run-up to the data is very huge. Pullback itself, the consolidations of the volume today is actually lower. At this point in time, we have a big deeper setup. 2-bar callback high here is at 494. Singtel. Now over here we have a strong downward move, and this appeared to be aberrations. Managed to actually raise upwards Now this is an important level to watch. This is a immediate resistance level, and we also have to be careful at this point in time. We have the release of result, and we'll be announcing the result on the 13th November. So it's something we need to pay attention. Now usually we'll prefer not to actually have open position just before the release of result, because it can go either way. SIA stock is actually weak with this deep retracements, and it's stuck in a trend range. Notice actually the 3026 is actually flat. Basically there's no trend characteristics. Again, we just have to be careful because of the release of result. This support is important levels to watch. SET has a very nice sideways move. Notice it's actually very tight. After the release of results, it actually has a very strong sell down. The fact that we have a strong bar like this on the downside, you will mean that you'll take some time for it to actually normalize, and we'll probably just observe quietly and to see what happens. Now this provides some level of support, this bunch of bar here. So in fact there was a test and managed to reject the low, but again with a wide range reversal like this, the chart is slightly damaged, and you probably take some time to repair. XGX, again this stock is a bit erratic at this point in time. Now testing this resistance, we see very sharp downward move followed by a bounce. So far the bounce itself is not impressive because the bodies are generally small. So more likely you're just stuck in a trend range. Notice the crossing of the 1326 SMA. Sembcorp, mentioned previously, this is the weak stocks, and it's ray oversold. If you notice the increasing in daylight, if you notice it's a series of bear bar, and right now we have a bit of reactions, but generally if the stock was to trade sideways, it's a sign of weakness, and we like to look for a break on the downside, and this level appeared maybe important to watch, and this is at 494. Keppel Corp, quite similar patterns. After the downward move, it kind of stuck in a trend range. This is the business guidance. If you notice, there was a reaction upward but kind of fizzled out, so this is a sign of weakness. So I'd like to actually observe what happens. And again, this was tested on 2 occasions, so this level here is important to watch. And this is at 634. Citron, over here we can see the stock is actually trending gently, and over here we see another explosion in range and followed by deep retracements. So usually it's likely to actually oscillate, trading sideways with a couple more swing. We just have to observe quietly. We'll prefer if the stocks can just trade sideways on very low volume. That will be a strong indication of just consolidations, and we're looking for it to resolve through a breakout. IFAS is actually a weak stocks. Now this is a stubborn resistance, and after the release of result, you notice we have severe sell down and making successive low. The drops appears to have lost its momentum. So notice a smaller bar. Look for a throwback, look for a setup to short the stock. This is Dairy Farm. Testing this very obvious resistance. If you notice, so far we see a series of sideways bar. We need a catalyst to trigger a break above this high here of 244. Bobitama. Now after breakings above these resistance levels, we see a shallow pullback followed by a very strong upward move, and here we see a very deep retracement. Today we do see a bullish bar on slightly increased volume. Now this is actually a big deeper setup, and there was a trigger. I'd like to see a follow through, eventually take up this high here, 845.